For many years, I operated thinking that I had a budget, and I really didn't have a budget. We're going to talk about the 9 different types of personal finance budget today, so you can decide which category you fall into and which one works best for your situation. I hope you'll stick around. If you don't know me, I'm Bonita, and I'm from rural Kansas. And I have lived frugally most all of my life, but I'm more frugal now than I've ever been, and that's because I wanted to retire early at the end of October. So I set those goals to make that happen. I'm 58, I'm an empty nester, I live in the country, and all of my life, I thought I had a budget. I honestly did. In reviewing the 9 different types of budgets, I realized that I really had no budget. I had what they called the anti-budget, which is the first budget I'm going to talk about today. So as you go through listening to these, let me know in the comments, which budget do you have? And does it work for you? And would one of these other ones make more sense? But the way that I budgeted for years, even when I had kids, was actually called an anti-budget. It's where I knew all my bills. I had all of my expenses. I kept track of them. I paid them in, but I used my checking account balance as my gauge as to whether or not I had enough money or not. And a lot of people still operate like this, and they think they have a budget. I did too. I knew what I owed. I knew what dates they were due, but I only used that checking account balance as my gauge. Budgeting takes time, it takes effort, it takes tracking, and the benefits can be huge. They can be meeting a goal. They can be adding to your savings, adding to your retirement funds. So there's lots of advantages to budgeting. So let's talk about the other 8 types now. One of the ones that we will hear about a lot is the 50-30-20 budget. And I recently did a video where I talked about the cost of living projections for people in the United States. And it turned out that one person in the state of Kansas, where I live, was estimated to need about $81,000 a year, which I thought was crazy. Those numbers were based on that 50-30-20 budget, which is a type of budget that encourages people to spend 30% of their income on wants. And I think in this inflation, no one is spending 30% on wants. But this 50-30-20 rule says that 50% should be spent on your immediate needs like housing, transportation, food, those sorts of necessities, 30% on wants, and 20% on paying off debt. Now, I believe if I have debt, I need to be spending more than 20% on debt if I have it available. And in this calculation, it shows another 30% is available. So this is a very consumeristic type of budget. I'm sure the economy would do well if we all spent 30% of our income on buying more stuff. But that's just not feasible with the inflation that we're seeing. So when you see those cost of living numbers projected for you, keep that in mind. It's based on that 50-30-20 budget. The third type is a zero-based budget. That means you allot all of your money coming in to your expenses, and then you allot whatever is left, if there is any, to savings, to retirements. You make sure every single penny is accounted for, and that is your zero-based budget. The fourth type is the pay yourself first budget. Now, this one is where you allot money to go into your savings first, and then everything else goes towards bills and other things that you want. This budget is for people who struggle with keeping any amount in their savings or building that savings. So it encourages you to save first and figure out the rest later. And that is the pay yourself first budget. Fifth category is the envelope system. Now, the envelope system is where you pay everything in cash. You get your allotments for your budget in your categories, put it into envelopes like for food, for gasoline, and then you spend out of those envelopes only. It helps with a visual on having cash and letting go of that cash, and it helps you know that you've capped and not be able to go over the amount in that envelope. A lot of people still use the envelope system. The sixth category is the goal-based budget, where you have a goal or goals you're specifically working towards, like maybe a vacation, a new car, a baby, a house, and you start focusing any extra money you have and allot it towards those goals so that you can meet those goals. You pay all of your expenses and then everything else goes towards those goals. Now, I kind of was like that when I wanted to retire. I paid all of my bills and then everything else went towards debt or went towards savings because I was wanting to retire early. So I had a goal-based budget at that time. The next type is the traditional budget. A traditional budget keeps track of your expenses, your income. It subtracts your expenses from your income, and everything left is put towards savings or debt. Many people use this type. It's very, very common. It's probably the most common of all of the budgeting types. The next type is the spending cap budget. That is where you divide all of your budgets into a cap amount and you keep track of that. And when you meet that cap, you stop spending no matter what for the entire month. So it's kind of like the cash envelope system, but you're not using cash. You're just tracking everything and then you're stopping when you meet that cap for the month. That one is the one I would say that I probably use right now. I keep track of all these different budget categories on paper. I track what I spend in each category to know if I've hit that cap, and then I stop. Sometimes I will spend more that month than the cap, but then I make up for it the next month. And I do that sometimes when I find groceries that are on sale, because overall for the year, I keep track on whether or not I've stayed under or over that cap, and I adjust that month to month. And the ninth, last type of personal budgeting is the sub savings account. And you probably have heard of this one as sinking funds. You will categorize what you are saving for, maybe a new car, maybe property taxes, things that are billed annually or something big you're saving for, and then you will allot money that you will actually save every single month into those subcategories for sinking funds so you can meet that goal when that time arises. So one of the ways that you can fight the insane cost of living is to choose a budget type that works best for you and your household. Out of these categories, have you tried any that do not work? I've not tried the 50, 30, 20, but I would say that that one would not work because I wouldn't feel right spending 30% on wants unless that 30% was like a sinking fund or a category that I saved for a vacation or a specific purpose. So as you see, some of these budget types, you could pick different philosophies from one or the other or a different one and combine them as they work for you. But these are the 9 basic types that people use to budget their finances at home. So let me know, which category do you fall in? Do any of these meet what you are doing with your money in your house? I hope that this video has been helpful to you. If it has been, please give me a thumbs up. I would love to have you stick around where we talk more about frugal living, saving money, cutting expenses, and living our best life on less. Thanks for joining me today.